when some were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God. Jesus said, "As for these things that you see, the days will come when not one stone will be left upon another. All will be thrown down." They asked him, "Teacher, when will this be? And what will be the sign that this is about to take place?" And Jesus said, "Beware that you are not led astray. For many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and 'the time is near.' Do not go after them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified. For these things must take place first, but the end will not follow immediately." Then Jesus said to them, "Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes and in various places famines and plagues. And there will be dreadful portents and great signs from heaven. But before all this occurs, they will arrest you and persecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. This will give you an opportunity to testify. So make up your minds not to prepare your defense in advance. For I will give you words and a wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents and siblings, by relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name. But not a hair on your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your souls." The Gospel of Christ.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Let me first say how wonderful it is to be here today. When I left Hamilton almost 20 years ago, the Lutheran Church in Hamilton looked very differently, right? And when I think about what you've been able to do over those 20 years, the coming together that you're a witness to, it really is inspiring. It is good news indeed. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Colin. I'm the rector and pastor of Burlington Anglican Lutheran Church. Try and fit that on a business card. That church is also the product of an amalgamation, a merger, a coming together of God's people. Prior to the pandemic, Holy Cross Lutheran Church, where I was the pastor, began to explore a variety of questions. Should we move locations? Should we close? How do we get new people in? What's our purpose and vision? Sound a little familiar? Yeah. For us at Holy Cross, though, our partner eventually came to us in the form of St. Elizabeth's Anglican Church. St. Elizabeth's had been looking at the same questions. Should they close? Should they move? How to get new people? And what was their purpose and vision? And they had a variety of partners over the years that they tried to work with, and it never really came to that final moment. So they came to us with the question of, could we partner with them? And somehow, by the grace of God, we managed to get it to work. All of this started just before the pandemic. We were just getting to know each other, and then we closed the buildings. Trying to negotiate the terms of merger or amalgamation are hard enough when you can see people face to face. Trying to do it in a Zoom call of 36 folk, well, it was a joy that I never thought I'd experience and hope I never do again. bringing together two churches of two different traditions had some challenges. While our functional theology between the two congregations was pretty much the same and we liked each other pretty much from the outset, trying to decide who was going to make the decisions, which decisions would be made by whom, and how many times we would listen to a bishop and how many times we wouldn't. Now, I would not say that at any point did our negotiations rise to the level of war and insurrection. It might have come close. But there were people who wondered if the time was near for both of our congregations to close. There were people who wondered if they were being led astray in this process of merging. How could Lutherans and Anglicans ever work together? I'd only been doing it for 20 years, but, we got there eventually. Until it came time to pick the hymns. Because, see, Anglicans and Lutherans pretty much have the same hymnody, other than in the Anglican book, according to Lutherans, it's the wrong tune. And in the Lutheran book, according to Anglicans, it's the wrong words. There may only be a slight difference in the arrangement and a minor grammatical change, but you would think that the world was coming to an end. While we're on the topic of wars and insurrections, I was so happy to read today's gospel reading when Pastor Danny suggested today was the day for a pulpit exchange. One of my seminary professors used to say to us that we always had to find the good news that we were going to preach. War and insurrection is hardly good news. I kind of leave this reading thinking, can I preach on a different reading? What is it that I can say? But if I look around the world today, I see the same sort of themes, right? I try at times to desperately escape hearing the news, because I get tired of people fighting politically, either south of our border or here as well. There are many people who believe that if Trump does this or Carney does that, it'll bring about the destruction of our countries. There are far too many people who preach in the political world a story of imminent destruction. Yet, today's gospel, which was written probably in the time of a bit of occupation itself, probably written at a time after the events described in it had actually happened, where the temple was torn down. Jesus tries to push aside the fear and tells people to not be terrified and to accept that the end will come. It just won't happen immediately. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear someone tell me to not be afraid, it rarely helps. Right? These words of Jesus at times are hardly comforting, because he doesn't tell us that it won't happen. He tells us that it will. And I want to pray to Jesus and say, couldn't you just give me a little bit of hope? Right? Just a little bit of, the temple will be fine. I can come and worship. I can come and do the things that I want to do. But he says, even worse will happen. After the destruction of the temple, there's going to be wars and earthquakes and famines and plagues. And I think, oh God, haven't we done that already? Haven't we already been through all of that? And that's why I want to escape the news most days. I don't want to hear about all of this. I want to hear that things will be all right. And then it gets worse, right? As if that wasn't bad enough. In the midst of all of this, Jesus says, and some of you are going to get arrested and persecuted. I don't want to hear that. I look good in black, not orange, right? I don't want those images that I see on TV, on the news, to become me. I don't want to be detained, questioned, and handed over and housed somewhere against my will. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anybody. At times I think we look at south of our border and question what's going on. I wonder if the same thing is beginning to happen here. Because we do have a history in this country of taking what happens down in the south and adopting it a number of years later, unfortunately. So, what's a better way forward when we've got some deep fundamental differences? When we come up against different ideologies on how to govern things, how to live together in community, what's a better way forward? Well, the merger process that I went through, there were some people who wanted to know what the merger would look like before they would ever agree to start talking. Tell us how the story will end, and then we will agree or not to join the story. Here's the good news from today's gospel. We don't need to figure out the words that end the story. We don't need to figure out those things in advance. For Jesus will give us the words that we need. The words that we need to move forward in harmony, to move forward together as God's people. There's part of me that again wants to pray that Jesus gives all of us those words and wisdom right now. For God knows the world needs that. Needs to know how to work better together. Needs to know how to work without conflict. And when I look around this place, and I look around the place where I normally lead worship, I can see that Jesus has already answered that prayer. We know how to come together. We know how to work together in these communities that we're in. And if this congregation is anything like mine, I'm sure there's conflict from time to time. Just thank God you don't have two different denominational hymnals. But if you couldn't work together, this wouldn't be happening. So our faith isn't something that's just alive in this place, or in my church in Burlington, or any of the other churches that I drove past in order to get here. Our faith is alive wherever we carry it. For we carry those words of Jesus in our hearts. Words of unity, of peace, and of love that were written into our hearts at the time of our baptisms. May those words, unity, peace, and love, be the words that Jesus gives us when forces come to lead us astray. For those are the words that our world needs so desperately. for our ability to witness to that unity, peace, and love that is God. For our ability to witness to that, we give thanks today. Amen.